What's up, y'all? My name is Trevor Wendt. I'm a visual artist raised in Virginia Beach, Virginia. I make art to challenge perspectives and give hope to the marginalized and oppressed. And we're basically all worldwide quarantining or social distancing to protect ourselves from the coronavirus. And so I know that can get difficult. I know it can get difficult to be stuck inside all day. So I wanted to give y'all something to do. And not everyone has a DSLR or a mirrorless camera or something like that to take photos with. And so I wanted to make this really accessible for as many people as I possibly could. So here are 6 tips on how to create quarantine smartphone self-portraits. You're gonna need something to hold your camera up with. I personally have a specific attachment for my tripod that is meant for smartphones. So I use that, and that's what I'm gonna use today, but you can also use something like a couple of boxes, or you can use some books. Make sure you use something sturdy though, because we don't want any cracked screens or cracked cameras or anything like that coming from this video. Now, here are the tips. Number 1, pay attention to the light in your home. Know where the light is coming from and the best time to shoot in different spots, and find interesting shadows and different things like that. This will give you a better idea of the type of photo that you want to create, the type of mood that you're looking for, and then some inspiration that you can check out on Pinterest or VSCO or any place like that for inspiration. Number 2, prop your camera up. Use a smartphone attachment for a tripod like I talked about earlier. Or you can use something as simple as books on a table or boxes on a table. Just be creative, but also be careful. Number 3, make sure you use the self timer in your smartphone, and be patient because it's gonna take a minute to get the shot that you want. Number 4, control your exposure. A lot of people don't know that on most smartphones, you should be able to tap on the screen and drag down in order to change the exposure. I know on iPhones, if you hold down, you can lock the autofocus and the auto exposure, which can get a little bit difficult when you can't really see it if it's facing the other direction, but you could also use the selfie camera if you'd like to. But you can totally change the exposure, and you will need to in most situations for your camera to pull off a decent exposure of you.
So the next tip I think is one of the most important in increasing the quality of your image, and that is bringing down the exposure. I'm going to show you how to specifically do it on the iPhone, but I'm sure other Android phones can do this as well. I just don't own any to be able to show you. Whenever you use your phone's camera, it automatically looks at the scene and it decides how bright the image should be, and typically it chooses to make it too bright. And so you can actually bring down the exposure by tapping on the screen, and I typically, whenever I'm taking photos of people, I will tap and hold on their face, and so this locks the focus on their face, and then there's a line to the right of that box, and you can drag your finger down and it brings down the exposure. I would say with almost every single photo I take on my phone, I bring down the exposure at least a little bit, because if you edit the photo afterwards, you can always make it brighter, but it's much harder to make it darker. So we're bringing down the exposure, which photographers would call exposing for the highlights. But the next
I'm sure you guys have probably heard about is golden hour. So I like to shoot either the first hour that the sun comes up, which, like, to be honest, is hardly ever, because I'm not a morning person at all. So usually I'll shoot in the afternoon within 1 hour of the sun going down. And the reason that this is so flattering is it's like a natural softbox to your face. So for example, like I said before, I have a big ring light in front of my face at the moment. When the sun is either setting or rising, it's like on the side. So say this is you here, the sun's hitting you this way, and when you have like light source that hits you directly on your face or body or whatever, it's going to be a lot more flattering, like I said before, than if the sun was in the middle of the sky and it's hitting you, and so you're getting all these shadows under your eyes and stuff. And there is nothing better than those beautiful golden hour like shots where everything just looks golden and amazing. So definitely try and shoot during golden hour. The next
tip is stepping away from the wall. Create some distance or some depth between the person and the background. This creates a much more dynamic image, and it just creates a little more focus on the person than the background. Typically, whenever you're taking a photo of somebody up against the wall, they put their back almost touching the wall, and not that this can't be a good image, but I would at least try having them step forward 3 or 4 feet. This gives the image a little more depth and a little more interest on the person and can create a little more dynamic image. So in this photo, I had my wife Sarah stand right up against the wall, and in this photo, I had her step away about 3 or 4 feet. So the next 2 tips are about
and it's to take a really good look at your background. This was another tip that mum gave me, and I was like, wow, that actually makes complete sense. Because I feel like a lot of the times you'll snap a picture, but then you'll look at it on your phone and there'll be like a bin in the background. If you guys can nail the background, you can nail what you're doing or what the subject of the image is doing in the picture, it's gonna be. What I have for you guys is the rule of thirds, and you can actually enable this on your phone where you can put a grid on your phone. So if you guys don't know what the rule of thirds is, essentially it's if you're shooting, you always want to be like, you have the rule of thirds like this, or maybe I'll insert a little like grid image here. You always want to make sure that the focus of the image is on one of those rules of thirds. So I'm actually breaking the rule of thirds like in this square that you guys can see me on YouTube at the moment, just because I like to shoot like this on YouTube. But whenever I'm taking photos, I'll always consider the rule of thirds and make sure that like I'm not like you'd be breaking it if you were here because the grids are in the middle. But if I was sitting here, that would be like my face is directly through one of the grids, which means that I'm following the rule of thirds. There have been a lot of studies done that just show that that's how humans best like to digest images and videos. Tip number 5 might seem really simple, but I feel like people forget about this all the time.